Your Honor was, I believe, present for that. For Scott's sake, they ruled him out in the very beginning of deliberations. Your statement, I ask that you take note of its inconsistencies with the evidence, respect the jury's verdict, which I know you will do, that the verdict is spoken. And we ask, in addition to what we previously asked, Judge, as a condition that she never profit from this story, from this crime, I just ask that you include that into her sentence, please.
All right. All right, as we've indicated, jury have returned a verdict of guilty to all counts. Count 1, the malice murder being the primary charge. Count 2 would be vacated as a matter of law based upon the conviction in count 1. Count 3, aggravated assault, would merge into the malice murder. I don't, without going into a lot of detail or my thoughts on it, jury's made a determination that Ms. Farris was responsible for her husband's death, and she was found guilty of all charges. I don't have much latitude in sentencing. The legislature has spoken, and the penalty for murder is life. The only determination I have is whether it would be with parole or without parole. I don't believe this is the case that justifies a life without parole sentence, so I'm going to sentence to life with parole, or life with the possibility of parole. I don't have any control over parole. That's up to the parole board. Under the current guidelines and sentencing structure with them, a life sentence is a minimum 30 years before you would be considered for parole at this point. I recognize that is likely a life sentence for you, but you'll have the hope and possibility of parole. As to count 4, which has a maximum of 10 years, I'm not, as I said, I wasn't going to sentence life without parole. However, I do feel like there's some additional consideration that needs to be taken as to count 4, the concealing the death of another. Presumably, the point of that was, so you were found guilty of discarding and burning the body of Gary Wayne Farris, hindering discovery of whether the person was unlawfully killed. That definitely hindered the investigation and shows additional level of criminal intent. I'm going to sentence to 5 years consecutive on the life sentence as to count 4, concealing the death of another. The false statements, that being the lying to law enforcement about the relationship with Mr. Barton. I believe if law enforcement didn't know about it at the time, they knew about it shortly thereafter. It was well known. Didn't take a lot of effort to make that determination. I don't really find that that's anything additional that needs additional punishment. So I'll run the 5 years concurrent as to count 5. So that will be a life plus 5 with the possibility of parole. And that'll be the sentence.
Count 4, Judge. Count 5 would be concurrent with count
count 5 would be concurrent with count 4 and the other counts. She be eligible for the credit for the time that she served in the Cherokee County Jail, subject to the jailer's affidavit from the sheriff's office. To the extent that that gives her credit for her sentence, she would receive that. With it being a life sentence and her being in control of Department of Corrections, are there anything that you want me to put as a condition of her sentence?
No contact with the family, Judge.
All right.
And not profiting from her conviction.
I will provision that she may not have direct communication with, well, I mean, she may have some of the family that wants to reach out to her. So what I would say is she's not to have any contact with family members. I don't know who they would even notify other than the prison. So any members of the family that want to have contact with you may contact you. They'll need to reach out to the warden's office first and let them know that they want to allow you to have contact with them, so you can call out to whoever has given approval to the warden. As far as the other provision, I'm not going to make any condition as to that. That will be something that would be left to a civil court if there is a lawsuit down the road and judgment, etc. So, all right, that being sentence court. Yes. All right. Execute the non-pros on the other indictment based upon the conviction on this case.
Will you read that? Make sure you do it.
Yes.
Let's see. All right. Yeah. Okay. I got another sentencing, but it's not for another 35 minutes. So if y'all want to break stuff down, you're all welcome to.